Hello there, everybody. And with finishing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2003 show, Season 1, I'm going to be reviewing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. So after I finish each season of the shows, as I did with the 2012 show, I always review a Ninja Turtle movie. And we've made it to the last Ninja Turtle movie since I've already reviewed the other animated ones on the channel. This time we're going to be talking about Out of the Shadows. So this came out 2016, and I gotta say, this movie is hated a lot, but I also have a soft spot for this movie because, I don't know, it just felt more epic to watch than the 2014 one, where the 2014 one was kind of trying to be like a Michael Bay Transformers Tmnt movie, just a bunch of CGI turtles fighting a robot shredder. But this time they changed a bunch of things to maybe fit like a modern version of the 80s show, if I gotta be honest. But we also get newer additions to this movie. And there's a lot to say about this movie. But yes, so the Turtles have been still laying low because they have to stay in the shadows. But they go to a basketball game, and of course, the man that is viewed as a hero for stopping Shredder is Venom, played by Will Arnett. And this is a pothole for me, but I don't really understand why people think Venom is the one that stopped Shredder. They even acknowledge he's a cameraman, so it doesn't really make sense that the people would think he was the one that stopped Shredder, who looks like a giant robot. But anyway, the Venom's getting of all the praise for stopping Shredder, but the game gets interrupted when Mikey accidentally drops pizza on the game, on the basketball floor. And that scene was just funny. I just love Mikey's reaction to dropping the pizza. That's probably one of my favorite scenes. But the Turtles have to go home, of course. And Mikey actually wants to go check out the Halloween parade. And of course we see like a Bumblebee cosplayer. I've actually thought the cosplayer actually looked super cool. But apparently Shredder is also on the loose because he's about to get transferred to a different prison. But of course, things are going to go wrong. And so April has to figure out this information through Baxter Stockman. So Baxter Stockman made a cameo in the last movie, but it was barely noticeable. But this time he has a bigger role in this movie, and he's played by Tyler Perry. So I don't know much about Tyler Perry other than he's a comedian, but he's actually pretty good as Baxter Stockman. He has that over-the-top scientist look, and he just looks the part, honestly. But yeah, he doesn't, I don't know, he kind of just doesn't do too much in this movie other than help Shredder find whatever they're looking for in this movie. But yeah, I wish Baxter had a bigger role. I'll get more into him in a little bit. But April basically tracks Baxter and pretends to be a fan of Baxter, and she has to steal his data from his tablet. And this is just an excuse to make Megan Fox look sexy in this movie. She basically takes her shirt and ties it in a bow. And that scene is just Michael Bay all over the place. April's role in this movie is a lot better, in my opinion. I like how she still helps the Turtles out. I don't know, she was focused a lot in the first movie for explaining the Turtles' origin. But I think her role in this movie kind of reminds me of the 80s role where I don't know, she's not really a reporter until the end of the movie in this movie, but in the 80s show, we know she's the reporter, but I don't know where I'm going with that. But the Turtles do get the data about Baxter, and they find out Shredder's going to be transferred, like I said, and this time Shredder's not played by a robot. This time he's played by Brian Lee. So Brian Lee actually looks like Shredder. And the last movie, he looked completely different. We didn't even see his face. We just he was a Japanese man, but this time they changed everything completely about Shredder. It's like they kind of retconned it a little, but they're basically like their response is like, okay, so people didn't like the robot Shredder, so let's just make him human. But what's disappointing about Shredder in this movie is that he doesn't really do anything Shredder worthy. Like he kind of just sets up the plot, and he helps create, which I'll get into in a bit, the two mutants, the Bebop and Rocksteady. But other than that, Shredder just doesn't really do anything. He barely even wears his helmet at all in this movie until the climax, and I'll get to what happens to Shredder later. But we also meet Casey Jones for the first time. This time he's a cop, played by Stephen Amell. So Stephen Amell, as you know, he plays the Green Arrow, and I actually really like him as the Green Arrow, even though Green Arrow's not really portrayed right from how he is in the comics, but that's a different story. But Stephen Amell, he's all right as Casey Jones. He's kind of just a cop looking for, I don't know, to get a bigger role for a cop. But we barely get references to hockey. He just happens to have a hockey stick, and because of that, he has a hockey mask, and he barely wears the mask, of course. I don't know what this movie is obsessed with our characters not wearing masks. It's a nitpick, I know, but I didn't really understand. But Casey's the guard for Shredder's transfer, and yeah, he's a bit of a loudmouth in this movie. He even says "son of a bitch." Even when I saw this in the theaters, I was like, "Ooh, he's swearing." But yeah, I do have childhood memories of seeing this movie, of course, in theaters. It was such a good time. That's why I feel nostalgic for this movie, even though I do have some nitpicks. But Shredder, of course, finds a way to escape his cell until the turtles show up in the turtle van. We also meet this version of Bebop and Rocksteady, played by Gray Anthony Williams and Sharankus. I'm sorry if I got his name wrong. He's a WWE wrestler. I feel like that's a perfect choice for Rocksteady. But when they do mutate, I'll get to that in a bit. But the Turtles basically have their big coming, and we even hear the theme song a little. And probably the funniest scene is where Mikey is trying to use the nunchucks on the turtle van, but of course he accidentally knocks them off. But basically the ninjas help Shredder escape, and Shredder basically gets beamed away by an alien, and even Leo questions where'd he go. But this is where we meet Krang, this version of Krang in this. And Krang actually does look like Krang. Like, he is a giant blob. I don't know who plays him in this movie. I didn't bother to look, but basically we learn of Krang's plan with Shredder. He basically kidnaps Shredder so they can find a way to find various pieces which will activate his techno-drone, and he's basically going to come to Earth and just take over it. But Shredder is, of course, interested, but he acknowledges that the turtles are going to get in the way of their plans, and so basically Krang's going to send Shredder to find the pieces, and it's basically kind of reminds me of the 80s show where Krang sends Shredder to go do his bidding with Bebop and Rocksteady. But Bebop and Rocksteady, of course, escape, and they actually go to a bar, surprisingly. And, of course, they're recruited by Shredder, and he does pull out his, spikes, of course, his things on his arms. I don't know what they're called, so sorry. But the one main plot point of this movie that really was different from most of the TMT storylines is where the turtles want to be human. They want to live lives as humans instead of just constantly being bottled up in the sewer. But this is where Donnie actually managed to find some purple ooze mutagen that will turn their mutant DNA human. And he actually tests it on himself, and Donnie actually has 5 fingers instead of 3, per usual the turtles for how they look. But of course, Leo does not agree to this at all. He feels they don't need that kind of power. But Mikey, of course, overhears this, and he's going to tell Raph. And Raph is, of course, pissed, and he confronts Leo later. But this causes a falling out between the two. But I gotta say one thing about Leo in this movie. Leo seems very more cold-hearted in this movie. Like, he doesn't... Like, it's like they're trying to set up an arc with Leo of trying to learn to be a good leader, but it just feels kind of overshadowed later in the movie. But what happens next is where the turtles do meet Casey Jones, is where April tries to find out what Shredder's up to, and of course Baxter is able to mutate Bebop and Rocksteady, and of course they turn into a Warthog and a Rhino, and the CGI actually does look pretty wild for Bebop and Rocksteady. Like, they were definitely wanting to bring these two to live action. And I'm actually glad they brought Bebop and Rocksteady in live action, since that was the big thing we wanted to see in a Ninja Turtle movie. The second movie, The Secret of the Ooze, people thought that Bebop and Rocksteady were going to show up, but because of rights issues, they couldn't bring them, so they brought Toka and Razar. But I'm glad in this movie they don't have to worry about rights, since the Turtles are owned by Viacom and Paramount. But that's a different story. But yeah, the CGI does look accurate for Bebop and Rocksteady. Some people probably think it looks bad, but I actually do like it. But I like the details they wear. Like, Rocksteady looks more like a motorcycle driver. And they even drive motorcycles. And Bebop, of course, has like the mohawk, and he's chubby, of course, and they both even like slap each other's bellies, realizing that they're both fat, and they even eat large chunks of spaghetti in the movie. But of course, Bebop and Rocksteady are going to be sent to go steal the various things that Shredder wants to help Krang. But April does show up, and she actually manages to steal whatever the data they need, and she does encounter Karai, who's also in this movie, and yeah, she doesn't do much in this movie other than be Shredder's henchwoman. But once April does escape the lab, she gets jumped by foot soldiers, and this is where we do see Casey Jones show up in his hockey mask, and this is the only time he wears it. And of course, April can't even hear him in the hockey mask, and he says Casey Jones. I honestly thought Casey Jones was going to be great in this movie, since I really do like Stephen Amell. I don't know, I just feel Casey was just more, not really the Casey Jones I'm more familiar with, where he's a crazy dude who just wants to beat the crap out of criminals. It's just, I guess they wanted to try something different by making him a cop in this movie. But once the Turtles do meet Casey, he just calls them aliens for some reason. It's something Michael Bay wanted to do with the Turtles, where he was originally going to make a Turtles movie, but they were going to be aliens, which he scrapped, thank goodness. But once Casey does get sent to the Turtles' lair, I actually like the lair in this movie a lot better, since it looks larger and there's a lot more room. And I do like the scene where Casey tries to jump Splinter, and Splinter just takes down Casey easily. But the main plot point of this movie is the bad guys trying to find the Technodrome, like I said. But after the falling out with the Turtles over the purple ooze, Leo, Donnie basically go to the museum to find whatever Shredder's looking for. But of course, they already found it, and Bebop and Rocksteady are going to be sent to, I think, South Africa to find the last piece. But Raph and Mikey end up going to the police headquarters, and they're going to sneak in to find more of that purple ooze. But things go wrong as April and Casey help the Turtles sneak in, and we get some like stealthy scenes, of course, and we see Venom help out, of course, and he's known as the Falcon. I forgot to mention in this, but he's of course viewed as the big celebrity, of course, by the cops and the media, and he was even on some talk show host, of course. But we also, I forgot to also mention, we do meet another cop in this movie. She's played by Laura Linney. Her character, she's kind of just the cop who complains a lot in this and tries to prevent Casey from trying to track down Bebop and Rocksteady. But once things go wrong and the turtles are discovered by the cops after everything goes wrong, the turtles manage to escape, but April and Casey are arrested and questioned by Laura Linney, and she, of course, does not believe she doesn't believe that the turtles are the good guys, and she even shows footage of April escaping, and she just doesn't believe April for whatever reason. But once the turtles do go to South Africa, we actually get a bunch of entertaining sequences where Bebop and Rocksteady find the last piece with a tank, and we get this nice like waterfall sequence where the turtles are fighting Bebop and Rocksteady on a tank. But of course I'm kind of speeding things up a little, but the turtles manage to track Bebop and Rocksteady on the plane, and we get a bunch of cool fight sequences. But probably my favorite sequence in this movie is where the turtles have to skydive onto another plane. They're just jumping on cargo planes, of course. But probably the best scene is where Raph is afraid to jump off the plane, and of course he jumps off, and he lands on the plane, and he just is just like hello to the pilots, and he just falls off. But even Raph meets like a tortoise, like a turtle, actual turtle, and he says, "Oh, this is awkward." But of course the turtles failed to find the last piece, and they even argue, and even Donnie calls out Leo for being cold and saying, "You know nothing about feelings." And Leo's like, "Oh, we're not a team." But this all leads to Krang finding the Technodrome, and he's going to use the Technodrome to rise in. And the Technodrome actually looks super cool when we do see a little hologram Donnie has of it. And once the turtles do learn of Krang's name, they have no clue who he is. But April and Casey are able to get themselves released because of the turtles. They're going to reveal themselves to the cops, and they're now given the choice to either be humans or not. And I actually like how Splinter tells them that they're becoming grown men. They went from teenagers to men. And the turtles have to decide if they're going to be human or not. But Splinter lets them make the choice. But Raph decides that they don't need to be human. They can just be turtles. And they reveal themselves to the cops. And they've revealed they're the heroes the whole time. And even Vernon reveals that he had some help, of course. But he still wants to be known as the Falcon. But I may have skipped some things. But this is where we get this big sequence where Baxter Stockman is going to be sent to a Tokyo lot or something. Shredder sends him, of course, and he even tells him that no one's going to remember you. Yeah, I was disappointed by that since I thought they were going to do a lot more with Baxter Stockman. But they just, like, kind of just throw him to the side. And they almost looks like they're going to set him up for the next movie, but they didn't do a next movie since I don't think this movie did as well. But Shredder, of course, goes all the way to the Technodrome. And this is where we get the twist where Krang betrays Shredder. And we don't even get a sequence where the turtles fight Shredder at all. This is the only sequence where Shredder puts on his helmet. And he's just like, "Oh, you betrayed me." And Shredder gets frozen to death. And then he's thrown into a vault of other Krang's memorabilias. And that was just disappointing. Just like, they could have done so much with Shredder in this movie. But no, he just doesn't do anything. And it's sad. since this Shredder was done dirty. That's probably my only issue with this movie. It's just how Shredder was done in this movie. I do have other nitpicks, of course, but like I said, this movie is a lot of fun, as I do point out things I do like. But the Turtles are going to go all the way up to Stockton Technodrome, while April and Casey and Burnham try to stop Bebop and Rocksteady in a little parking lot. And yeah, Casey, I do like how Casey puts on some rollerblades to take out Bebop and Rocksteady. And we get this sequence where they're chasing him on motorcycles. But Casey's able to just trick the two into going into like I think like a crate, I'm pretty sure. And they're locked in there for police custody. And then we get this funny sequence where Bebop says, "Oh, my man." But April and Vernon have to take out Karai. And this scene, surprisingly, goes quickly since April's able to easily take out Karai. And they're able to take down the shield for the Technodrome and find whatever beacon they're looking for. But once the Turtles do fight Krang, we do see Krang unleash. And the ref, of course, thinks it's just a giant robot dummy, but once Krang reveals himself, it's a fight between the Turtles and Krang. It actually does remind me of how it's done in the 80s show, but the only way they can send the Technodrome back into, I assume Dimension X, is they have a beacon, like I said, and Mikey ends up pulling out his skateboard that has it's like a hoverboard, and he's able to find that beacon and just throw it in the Dimension X, and with Donnie's tech skills, they're able to shut down the Technodrome, and of course they defeat Krang. And then the Turtles, of course, celebrate, and this is probably a good sequence where the Turtles are actually honored for saving the city by the police chief, and she actually likes the Turtles. And she actually tells them that they can have a normal life now since they're viewed as citizens now. And they even get the key for saving it. But the movie does end with the Turtles on the Statue of Liberty, which was nice. But yeah, that's the end of the Michael Bay Turtles. So yeah, I do have a lot of nitpicks with this movie, since this movie could have developed the villains a lot better. Bebop and Rocksteady were easily the highlights of this movie. And I think the Turtles dynamic could have been written a lot better, since you felt like they could have been a better team. But yeah, Casey Jones was alright. I like Stephen Amell, but he's alright as Casey Jones, like I said. Megan Fox was okay as April. But yeah, what I liked about this movie is the 80s callbacks, and I even liked how the end credits showed like the various like animations of the Turtles. Well, not various versions, just like it was just an animatic of the entire movie. And it plays the Ninja Turtles theme song, so yeah. But I mainly do like this movie because I do have a lot of nostalgia for this, since this is the first TMNT movie I got to see in theaters, and I had a good time when I was a kid watching it. But this movie came out when the 2012 show was still going on. If I think it was at season 4, but yeah, I'd definitely give this movie probably a 7 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. But it's definitely one of my more favorite live action. It's definitely not as I wouldn't say it's as bad as like the TMNT 2000. Wait, no, the TMNT Free. It's not as bad as that, but this movie is definitely could have been a lot better. But there's also some things I do like. It's like a mixed bag for me. But yeah, I'm going to be reviewing Ninja Turtles Season 2, the 2003 show, and I'll probably announce what I'll be reviewing since I've finished all the Ninja Turtle movies. I now feel like a completionist. I've reviewed all the Ninja Turtle movies on this channel. I gotta say, thank you, whoever watches this. So anyway, thanks for watching, and Turtle Power!